All right, next we have Sandy Rico with the discussion of a roundabout at the intersection of West 9th Street and South Street. Uh-oh.
Good afternoon. We're going to have the consultants explain the design they've made for the roundabout at West 9th and South Street. We do have a grant to pay for most of that, so they'll explain a couple alternatives, and if you have questions, now would be the time to ask. Thanks.
Well, thanks for having us tonight. We're going to be talking through the South Street and West 9th, the intersection improvements.
Could you introduce yourselves for the general public?
Yep.
There we go.
Perfect. With you today is I'm Justin Campbell. I'm the overall project lead from Shive-Hattery, and Jake Lehman's here with me. He's lead design. So that's who's here today. And again, thanks for having us. So first thing we want to do is kind of talk through how we arrived at the main roundabout, just to jump to the solution. And then we're going to talk about your project, some of the details that are going into it. So, what is a mini roundabout? Well, it's a smaller version of the modern version. You can see here, this is a roundabout in Mount Vernon. It's approximately 140 feet wide. We're not building that on South Street. And the other thing that we're not building is a traffic circle. You'll see these in some communities. We have this center island, raised curb, some landscaping in the middle. We're not doing that either. But what we are doing is looking to install a mini roundabout which has the traversable curbs, the decorative paving. You can drive over the central island, and it's smaller in nature. We actually have a video here.
Over it? Like for big trucks? Oh, like if you move that makes sense.
So this is an intersection in Coralville. It was the first mini roundabout in the state of Iowa. But you can see buses go through this intersection. They do through, left, right, every direction. The CAN bus as well as school buses can navigate through. It's been a fantastic solution at that location. So ultimately, again, the mini roundabout was selected for this location, and for a number of reasons. It's smaller, it's more cost effective, it's significantly cheaper, and we can also build it much quicker. So again, all the benefits of a modern roundabout in a more of a compact footprint. So the first thing that we did after working through with the DOT, getting traffic safety dollars for this location, we looked at it, will it work from a traffic standpoint? So we collected counts, and what you see here is we looked at how operations work when we install it this year, and then also what it would look like in 20 years down the road using kind of our crystal ball. And what we found was that intersection's not working from an operations standpoint, not very well now, operating at level service F, failing. By putting in this mini roundabout, it drops that down to a level service, or up to a level service A, opening day. Wow. You can see with only 6 seconds of delay. And then we also looked at the 2042 scenario, which you see the red lines actually indicate how far in the worst case scenario, how many cars would back up, like how far back from an intersection it would queue. And what we were really looking for is making sure that cars do not back up from Highway 218 back to South Street, or from South Street back to 218. And that we do not see that not opening day or in the future. So that was what we were hoping to see. And Jake will walk through some of the details.
Thank you. So what's on the slide here is a rendering of what we have proposed through preliminary plans, just overlaid on Google Earth. So here's our preliminary design, which went through the DOT review. It also went through city staff review. A couple highlights from this would be it is a 90-foot radius, as opposed to the example in Coralville that Justin mentioned. That was only 65. So it is a little bit bigger. That should accommodate vehicles a little bit better. Another thing to highlight too is he did mention it, the center island as well as the parts of the splitter islands are traversable, so they only have a 3-inch slope curb that will allow larger vehicles to overtrack on top of those areas. Couple checks, performance checks that we had to go through as part of the DOT review at this preliminary plan stage. We did fastest path checks. So naturally, the roundabouts, the goal of them is to get traffic through efficiently, but also the geometry of them naturally slows traffic down and calms traffic. So for a mini roundabout, we want to limit speeds to 20 miles an hour or less, and we were able to do that with this preliminary design. The next check, mini roundabout, that would be the turning movements. So for a mini roundabout, the standard design vehicle is a city bus, which would also, fire trucks would also fall under that vehicle as well. And what you can see here on this slide is that the wheelbase of the city bus stays within the curb lines on these movements that are shown. Now we did do all four legs of the intersection, but to save some time here, we're just focusing on one corner of this intersection. So next, what was brought up was to look at a larger vehicle, so a WB62 semi, which is what we designed for larger roundabouts, similar to that Mount Vernon one that was shown at the beginning of the slide. Now, one thing we did want to point out with the larger vehicles are in the red circle up there is the trailer. The tires end up overtracking past the curb, and this happens at all four corners. I did mention we're only showing one here. We did just want to bring this up as a again, it's not, many roundabouts are designed to a city bus for the design vehicle, but we did want to bring up this and bring about a couple recommendations, couple alternatives that we did look into. So I apologize, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. We did want to talk a little bit more about the counts, traffic counts that were out there. The day we counted back in, I believe this is from the summer of 2021, there were around 9,000 vehicles between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. go through this intersection. Now, 65 of those vehicles were trucks, and how trucks were classified in this were anything larger than a pickup truck or passenger vehicle. So this could be buses, this could be delivery vehicles, this could be semis. That's less than 1% of the vehicles going through this intersection. Trucks that made right turns, there were 12 on this particular day. Very low percentage there. Again, but we still wanted to look into this as potentially larger vehicles could be making their way through this intersection. These right turns are just something we wanted to point out. Now I'll get into, we did want to share a video. This is from a roundabout in Marion. We were able to capture 2 trucks going through at the same time. So this roundabout is about 80 feet, so a little bit smaller than what we're proposing. And these trucks were making through movements, but we did just want to show you guys just that you can see what's going on. So one consideration we looked into to help with getting trucks through would be looking at shifting the center of the circle. And really what we realized was that the circle where it falls from our original design is about where it wants to be. As you move this, you present several issues, the fastest paths, different truck movements. So we decided this probably isn't a good solution to move forward with. But what we would recommend moving forward with to accommodate larger vehicles would be paving behind the back of curb and between the sidewalks. This was done in the Corville project that was shown earlier in the slide. Now the paving, the idea here would be it would allow a hard surface for the back trailer tires of a larger semi that is trying to get through the intersection. There wouldn't be any ruts. It would hold up for that occasional use. We did estimate this to be about an additional $35,000 on top of what our original design came up to be cost-wise. Now I'll bring Justin back up to kind of wrap things up.
So this is what I've been working on for the last couple of months. Ultimately, coming to this recommendation, and we wanted to bring that forward. So if there's any questions that you might have for us, as far as next steps and schedule, ultimately we're going to go back and we're going to, based on any city comments or DOT comments, we're going to make those revisions over the next month, and then ultimately have these plans ready to go to bid in March. And after that, ultimately, again, with the mini roundabout, a much shorter construction timeframe. The goal would be from May to August would be the full construction, but really closing down the intersection from June to July, really trying to condense the road closures. So that's where we're at from a project standpoint, schedule standpoint, and that's what we have for you today. So any questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I had a constituent reach out about this who was concerned. So I just wanted to relay their concerns. So their first concern was, have we had conversations with the businesses that are in the area, the Euro Hut, the gas station, and those. The other concern they have is that further down on West 9th is one of our primary hospitals, and they were concerned about ambulances being able to get off 218 and successfully navigate this scenario. I think you've answered the question, but I just want to double back to make sure that we get the answers to those questions.
Great question. So first of all, we have not met with business owners. I think that's a great next step after we get past this preliminary design. Again, DOT approval, make sure we get an update to council. But as far as ambulance, absolutely they can make it through the intersection. It's free flowing, so they have that flexibility to get through the intersection as well. And if you do want more information on that, we could certainly run an ambulance turning movement through the intersection, or there's also many videos available to educate folks on that.
No, that's helpful. And I think if a bus can make it, an ambulance is a much shorter vehicle. So they just wanted to check. So thank you so much.
Great questions.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Bozen.
and as long as we're on the subject of the fire department or ambulances, I'm concerned about our aerial truck, which is larger than a city bus. And I know you're going to have those bump curbs. So have you discussed any of this with the fire department and the length and the turning radiuses of our aerial truck? Because that is a primary route once they come off of Washington to get into those areas.
Yeah, we can certainly reach it. We have not had that conversation. That's certainly something we can.
Okay, and then I'm curious on since I mean, there's really nothing to stop a car from driving straight through the way it's set up.
Correct.
Okay. How does that affect snow removal? Because if we're going to make the ability for a semi to use that curb as part of its turning radius, is that going to require us as a city to clean that and to clean that center?
Correct. Yes.
Because that's going to be an issue because we just can't pile snow on it.
Correct. Yeah. So other communities, you start from the inside and you push snow out. So communities like Cedar Rapids, Atumwa, Marion, Hiawatha, places like that have roundabouts like this.
So they clean that
Correct.
area.
Yep.
So that's going to be an issue for us. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that's the same intersection where if you're moving east on south, sometimes it's almost mission impossible to be able to turn or to cross near there. So, I mean, it doesn't take a traffic engineer or an engineer to be able to know that we have some serious challenges at that location. So, great to see. I have, and this is maybe a far out question, but I have a colleague who has autonomous vehicles, and we know when we are designing the streets up tomorrow, how does this work with autonomous vehicles?
That is a great question. Yeah, I think that's something we could certainly dig into now. I don't have the answer right off the top of my head from as far as how they're going to navigate not only mini roundabouts but just modern roundabouts in general.
So yeah, I did some research and I watched a
good,
lot of
good.
videos to kind of see exactly how this is going to happen, because I would assume in the next 7 or 8 years we'll be seeing potentially more and more of autonomous vehicles throughout our community, and our goal is to become a smart city where we're interconnected. And so probably our 10-range plan is to be that community. So we definitely want to make sure we're designing today what we'll be able to use tomorrow. So I don't know if there's some type of safety strip. I don't know if there is something that could be laid down that has an awareness, maybe I should design that, huh? An awareness mechanism for autonomous vehicles within there. That would be something to look as well, so.
And the roundabout will be striped similar to any other road, so, you know, if the vehicles can, you know, use that for navigation, I think it'd be very, very similar.
Yeah. And the reason you indicated, so to Mr. Bozen's comments, this will be a flat one?
Yeah, basically, it's a 3-inch curb, is what it's just enough to kind of deter folks from driving over the Central Island. You still can, but very good compliance from other locations that they're installed at.
So not a history of those of folks just going straight through or
Not very often, and usually if you do, it's like, well, probably shouldn't do that the next time.
Right, okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
will there be signage along the interior of that circle that says "Go right"?
The only signage that are typically at a main roundabout is just the yield sign.
Okay.
Everything else is through striping.
It's on the road.
So we try to minimize the signage at a mini, just because, again, the idea is being able to drive over a curb or not. We don't want to have signs in the way for like a truck or a car to hit that.
The striping, then I assume will say "Go right."
So what you see here is the striping. We haven't historically seen a go right sign.
So the reason I say that is to just to point to Mr. Mayor's. I think I may know who he's talking about.
Okay.
And that's how the autonomous vehicles are able to tell where to go. So if they're the right turn stripe, that'll make it easier for the vehicle to know that it's coming to a roundabout.
Okay, very good.
You're not my only colleague with, that's not, I'm just playing. But yeah, so we're, definitely thinking about that, so that's good info. Sandy, did you have any comments on lane striping or anything like that? So,
Yep, whatever it takes, yep. Great.
all right. So, any other questions for our guests today? All right, thank you. It's exciting.
Thank you.
All right. And Jamie, Sandy, this is, did I see 2022?
This year.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, can I ask, Mr. Mayor? Can I
Yes,
ask a question
sir.
of Sandy? Sandy, we got a grant for this, right? That additional 35,000, does that fit within that grant? Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?